A very good evening and welcome to this edition of the Fourth Estate. Charles Mungu Shampagi. And tonight we'll be trying to feel the political pulse. Seems like everybody has been, everything has been quiet over the last few months or weeks. And the big question is, as Dr. Kizza Besigye makes a return to Kampala tomorrow, as expected, will that change anything? What has been going on? Peter Komoroit believes that the politicians, both in the ruling party and in the opposition, have decided to put their respective planes in autopilot. So they're moving. Actually, he thinks they have no no control. They might know the direction or not. Angelo has a different belief. But let me introduce. Tonight, we have the Lord Mayor of Kampala. Kampala has been in festive mode. The Kampala Annual Festival. Is it Kampala Annual Festival? What is it called?
Well, it's time to be corrected. You can guide me.
You are the Lord Mayor, for goodness sake.
Well, some call it carnival, others
the Kampala Carnival.
Carnival, festival. Whichever term you use, I think it's just celebration. Yeah.
We waited for invitations from the mayor's office and we did not get any.
Well, if myself I'm not in, I mean, I've not participated. How about you? Well,
so it
just yet shows, another story.
It shows that you are still not in charge.
Well, there are matters I may not be comfortable to discuss here concerning the same, given the position I hold, but there are still challenges. And
so you're back at
in the next authority meeting, I think we are going to address that. Yeah.
So you're back at KCCA, but you're actually not in. You're not actually there. Because how can things be happening? You can't be invited to your own party.
But it is still the same regime taking charge of the affairs of this country. Do you think the mindset of President Museveni changed overnight? Do you think he has come to terms with the fact that I defeated him in Kampala, and he indeed embraced the Lord Mayor?
But Museveni didn't stop you from attending the carnival or from helping to organize, to structure.
Those are the dynamics I said may not be, we may not delve into right now, but certainly the mindset, who is the mastermind behind all this.
What point are you trying to prove by protesting the same?
It's not protesting as such.
Well, you're not there.
I just decided to keep a low profile. No, it's not because to celebrate, well, it's optional.
No, but what
you may choose to participate or you may not. It's upon you. It's entirely your discretion.
What's the major point you would be delivering by staying away? Which I call a protest because your absence there is loud.
No,
you don't have to label it anything.
No, you would ask how many political leaders in Kampala participated, starting with the members of parliament. Are they all protesting?
But you are
we have 9
mayor.
members of parliament. How many attended?
You have 5 members of parliament belong to the opposition and 1 is independent.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, so
this is what I'm saying. Secondly, you have 5 mayors. You'd ask how many attended. So
the 5 mayors belong to the opposition.
Well, the point I'm making.
So did you agree that as the political class of Kampala, apart from the 2 ministers, you are not going to participate in this?
No,
and Angelo's question remains valid. What point are you actually trying to make?
The point I am making, one, it was my decision. It's a choice not to participate. Whether I had reservations or not, for one to participate in a festival of that nature, you must have reasons. So I would ask, what role was I going to play? What role was assigned to the Lord Mayor in that? Have you bothered to find out? So would I just come, put on shorts and then take a walk around the streets, go dancing or what? No.
Why not? That's what everyone is doing.
Yeah, but it may not be my area of interest. So would you compel me to do so? Certainly not.
Your office maybe would.
Yeah, if there are statutory functions to perform, I would be compelled by those provisions of the law that do ABCD. So just highlight those particular areas.
You hold a political office. Statutory legal provisions serve the political purposes beyond what is provided for. The law just provides a framework, a guide in which you operate.
But I think I understand what he's saying. There is no political capital to be gained.
No. For heaven's sake, don't put it out of context.
No, this is what you're.
It's not
so many words.
It's not about getting political capital out of this event. It's not the first. Actually, these festivities have been there. They didn't start with this regime. In the olden days when we are still young, we used to witness during this season of independence, the independence season, we would have festivities, those floats, those this kind of euphoria would be there during the Amino Bote regime. But it's only that this time around, it's being organized by the municipal authority, by KCCA. But at that time, I think it was...
You were at the political...
Oh, yes. Oh, yes.
And I'm sure you must have had whispers about it days before.
Not even whispers.
Yeah, you knew about it as an official event.
I've told you.
And look, forget about the organizers, whatever reservations you have about their approach. What about the people who came out? General, as the leader, you would be curious. It's like you are home and people are coming around. You must come out and ask what's happening.
But I said
you need to greet them and
people are free to go merrymaking. People are free to go and celebrate.
Yeah, but this is not
wine and dine. It may not be my area.
Personally, I was not there, but I'm saying for you, you are the political head, and certainly people expect to see the mayor. Sure. So you should have asked. If you are not given a role, you should have asked the technocrats what is happening. You need to give me a role. But if you also say, if they don't give me, I don't care.
Well, his statement was...
And this is where I invite you.
This
is where I invite you as independent minds to interrogate the issues informing some of the decisions we take. It is important because we have a unique system. It's not all the capital cities that they have got ministers, they have got RCCs, they have got executive director, they have got 5 mayors, they have got a lord mayor. How many capital cities have you seen in the world with such a structure? So it's high time, I think, you interrogated these issues as independent minds.
But this is what Charles alluded to when he spoke of you, both sides of the political divide, leaving the city or the governance in autopilot. Because if you are now asking us to interrogate,
this what
after
my brother,
after the carnival has taken place, whatever mistakes have been made,
not everything is for the camera. I took oath for the second term as the Lord Mayor. Of course, you know what transpired during the previous term. I don't need to go into that. But when I was giving my inaugural speech on the 6th of June, I did allude to this issue. I highlighted the challenges facing this festival. And I made a commitment to the people that I'll do my best to restructure it. I'll do my best to remodel it, to showcase our potentials, to showcase our heritage, to showcase our indigenous values, and ultimately to give us a direction on where we want to go as a people. I just didn't want a one-off, a celebration. That is my vision. So internally, since that time, I have tried my level best. I've even had it on the order paper, the authority meeting. And there's quite a number of issues I highlighted, including talent promotion, upcoming artists, including things like monuments. You visited cities like even Washington, D.C. Things you would wish to visit, like Lafayette Square, things like Abraham Lincoln Monument, Martin Luther King Jr. when you go to Atlanta. So here, what attracts you? I have people who wanted to come up with the idea of a fabulous monument reflecting the history of this Kampala, of this capital city, like Mutesa One, like the history of the Impala, and so many other things. Very creative people, and even the institution of, the cultural institution of Buganda. They were all involved in all this. But as I said, there are certain dynamics which came in and frustrated all these efforts. It's not that I've not done my part.
Okay, so that is quite sad, and so, but unfortunately, it's a story that we have had before. So, as a leader, where is the political responsibility?
Oh, yes.
Where is the sense of pride? isn't this something that calls for saying either it happened, so I leave this thing?
No.
Because
This is what I've told you.
People expect, and if you are not allowed to do what you should do,
there are formal processes formal steps I have to take in addressing all this. So I have made a commitment before the people that look here, let the celebrations go on without any interference, and thereafter I'm going to bring this matter to the authority meeting with rush it out.
But Mr. Lord Mayor, you realize that on Tuesday you'll have taken your second oath. That will be 4 months since you took your second oath
yes.
as Lord Mayor. And you said we don't need to go back into what happened in your first term as Lord Mayor of Kampala.
On this show. But
yes.
we are doing it elsewhere.
Yes, on this show. But I mean, we know what happened. You effectively, for a large part of the time, you're not in office.
Over 3 years.
Over 3 years. And for the time you're in office, you could hardly do anything. Now you have come back into office 4 months later, and we are still asking, what's going on? Do you know what's going on? Are you in charge of what's going on in this city? Even before we go into a discussion of the broader political pulse of the country, especially looking at the opposition where you belong.
You see, it all takes us back to the question of the mandate of the Lord Mayor. And this is specifically laid out in the Act. And I've tried my level best to live up to those, to take charge of the affairs of the city in accordance with the law. And I made a commitment, in light of what transpired during the last term, that, look, we need to rebuild the institution. And I've done my best to rebuild it.
What is your best?
What is my best?
Yes.
Aside from skipping this function. Because as I understand it, for everything you've said, I still think the summary of it is that there is no political capital to be gained. Because
why are you insisting on political capital?
Because this is what you said. You said there
not political capital.
There are no statutory functions to perform, but you're the political leader.
And
now if there are no formal functions that would have driven you there, and you have no other motivation to participate in an occasion which is in your office, then it must be that it has reasons to do with your politics. Because what I sense from your explanation, the nursery rhyme version would be that a bad workman blames his tools. Because you don't have the legal framework. This is what you've been doing. You've been complaining that you've been complaining from the start that the system is just not set up for you to be able to be functional and thrive.
Would you give me a minute to explain that? I am not seated, that I've kept my arms folded and I'm just lamenting, I'm just shedding tears. No. If you care to understand what I'm doing, to invest, to study exactly what we are doing inside the authority, you would really appreciate. One, building systems, and it's important. Building systems. And I'm making a headway. One, reconstituting the institution, the authority is sitting, putting in place the necessary committees to do work, they are doing that. Systems of accountability, I'm doing my best. And of course, one fundamental issue, because you are asking me what is your best, mine would be planning, redesigning the structure, the blueprint for Kampala. And that's what I'm focusing on right now.
As an experienced consummate politician, you know that your electorate cannot understand these things behind the scenes. They want to see and they want to hear. And what a better opportunity, among others, than this carnival, where you could have even gone and spoken to them about what you are doing behind the scenes.
Because I'm sure most of them are hearing them from here.
Public and go and do your things behind the scenes. Why would people believe that you are doing them and you are in charge?
And the other thing, just before you take a break,
they keep track of what you were doing.
Lord Mayor,
they keep track of everything.
We need to take a break. But you're dealing with an authority. You said the structure of Kampala Capital City Authority, Capital City rather, is unique, which I agree with. Top heavy. 2 ministers, a Lord Mayor with a council, 5 mayors of divisions,
6 RCCs.
6 RCCs. And
executive director and
executive
deputy,
director
10
and
directors.
10 directors. You know, it's top heavy. And Kampalans asking, what does this nebulous thing called KCCA do? Well, the festival is one way to demonstrate that you're doing something. But what exactly, who does what? Who doesn't do what?
Incidentally, it's not structured to showcase what you're talking about. It's just a day out for the people of Kampala to celebrate, to socialize, to get onto the streets.
To feel good about their city.
Exactly. That is all.
Let's take a break. When we come back, we'll be looking at the broader question of the national political structure. Dr. Kizza Besigye, the former presidential candidate for the Forum for Democratic Change and runner-up in that election, will be returning to the country tomorrow. He was due to return last Thursday, but what we have heard is that one of the plans is to organize activities that run this country up to independence, which will be on Sunday, October 9th. We'll be right back.
When you trust something with your eyes closed, it's got to be good for you. At Fresh Dairy, we spare no effort to bring you the purest milk, sourced from Ugandan farms. It's fresh and tasty so that you keep enjoying the good things in life. Fresh Dairy, simply good for you.
You know what they say about girls. Who cries more? Girls. Who does the chores? Girls. Who's the shopaholic? Girls. Who's all about selfies? Girls. Who brings the drama? Girls. But we want to show you our real world, where we're more than just girls. Introducing Spark TV, the first female channel in Uganda, made for you to bring out the best in you. Spark TV, it's your time.
You're still watching The Fourth Estate, and we are testing the political pulse. Will Besigye's return reignite or breathe new life into the especially political activity in this city when he comes back tomorrow? Lord Mayor, you are one of the politicians who are very close to Dr. Kizza Besigye. So, sure. The plans for return, why was Thursday cancelled, and will he actually be coming back tomorrow?
Well, certainly he's scheduled to come back tomorrow. Why the earlier arrangements were cancelled, I think it's a matter we shouldn't go into, because a decision can be taken for one reason or another. Of course, it was not intended as such, but because of circumstances beyond our control, we just discovered it was not,
Are those circumstances political?
No, they were not political.
Logistical?
You could say
personal?
They were logistical.
Logistical?
Yes, they were logistical matters, reasons, and of course, it became practically impossible for him to make it to Uganda on that day. So, and we found no reason why we shouldn't reschedule. And police were duly notified, well in time, and luckily enough, they responded positively at that time. They said, well, we have no objection, as if they could stop him from coming back, because I don't need the clearance to return to my country. I mean, under the law, under the constitution, I have a right to move out of the country and come as I please. But they arrogated themselves powers to clear his return.
In the same way, you don't need an invitation and a statutory function to go to your own festival.
But I said I retain the discretion.
Isn't that the same logic?
Yes, certainly, but I retain the discretion to either go or not. Just if you may address my mind to that briefly. I belonged to the 8th Parliament, you know that. Monday last week, or this week, I stand to be guided. There was a function to award medals. Did I participate? Did I take part in that function?
Ona was in a parliament before you, and
I don't know whether he picked his. You picked yours.
When you win a medal, you're supposed to be wearing that medal.
Not on Fourth Estate.
No.
And you are not keen
to
ask. Why were you not interested in asking as to why some of us did not pick those medals, because I've never picked mine up to now. And
perhaps because
there was no horrible about that.
Perhaps because it's consistent with a political message. That there's political capital to be gained by staying away.
So probably the very reason I did not pick the medal is the reason I
have not gone for the festival.
For the festival.
But let's move on. I think when I was asking a fundamental question before we came on air this evening, and he was saying, you seem to have put the politics in autopilot, and everyone has gone to do their own other things. Maybe, Ona, you should reframe your question now for the benefit of our viewers.
Yeah, certainly I think, and this is where now Dr. Besigye wants to make sure that when he comes, there is some action at the airport, so to say, because in reality, I think for the opposition, the challenge is Kizza Besigye has been out for, is it close to a month?
Of a month.
Yeah.
Of course, he left late August.
Spoke at a number of fora. But certainly, I think this is becoming an old story, the spillover from the elections, and the opposition is now struggling to keep it alive. I know it's in their interest to make sure that this story goes on, but are the people seeing it that way? And maybe that's a big question. You need to look for another way of really re-energizing your struggle.
No, but
because look, just hold on. Very few people would understand the need for a procession or anything like a crowd welcoming, however beloved the leader may be at this particular moment. We are past elections, so it looks like just seeking some kind of visibility, which perhaps shows that there is nothing much more you can do at this moment, because everyone goes out of the country and comes back. Even the president, very few people go to meet him, officials who have no choice. It's just another day. So why does he have?
You see, you're forgetting one thing on Apito. Dr. Besigye symbolizes a particular cause. Actually, he's an embodiment of several forces and interests of so many people. So he's coming back, makes a political statement. Of course, his exit, let me first explain his going away and what you are trying to project, to portray as being in autopilot. Certainly, it's a natural phenomenon that once you are engaged in a struggle of that nature, there is a flag bearer, there is a pillar, there is a titular head. Dr. Besigye naturally comes out as a person who champions, who heads a particular cause. And all forces of change have to coalesce behind him. That's why in the run-up to the TDA processes, we told people that it may not be easy to sideline Dr. Besigye and to get him out of the way. And I've heard people criticizing him that he should hand over the baton to somebody else. How? You know, it's not that easy. It's not just mechanical. We're not talking about formal processes of a political party, that you are going to have a delegates conference, you are going to have party structures, you are going to have this and that, and then you create leadership positions. No. A leader of a revolution emerges naturally. That's why even in the days of apartheid in South Africa, forces had to coalesce behind Nelson Mandela, even when he was in prison.
But Nelson Mandela, you as well as you know, was backed by a very strong political party.
No. He didn't. Yes, he didn't operate from within any.
From 1914.
No.
Yes, he had a political party.
Yes, he had a political party. But the people were arrested. Largely, you look at people like Walter Sisulu, people like Steve Biko and the rest. They didn't operate within the party mechanism and systems. They were championing a particular cause. Okay. Actually, away from the politics of South Africa. Let me take you to other icons of civil liberties, like Martin Luther King Jr., which party did he belong to? But he championed the revolution whose legacy you can feel today, even as we talk here in Uganda. So
what revolution are you championing?
The revolution we are championing is to dismantle a dictatorial system that has been in place since independence. Because since independence we have not had orderly succession to power. Since independence we have had every regime coming into power using force. We have had the coups and the counter coups. So and we seem to be taking that same direction. And that's why you are suggesting we are running out of options. Now we are in autopilot. Because when President Museveni in the early 80s was faced with a situation of this nature, He opted to go to the bush.
But the question, Lord
And
Mayor,
we are saying, no, we are not going to
and
the
you're
bush.
presenting a significant contradiction here to say you're trying to have a predictable way to change power. We have not had organized handover of power from one leader to another since independence. This country will be 54 years since independence on Sunday, next Sunday.
Sure.
So when we come back here, we'll be 54 years as an independent country. And the bigger question is, you say you shun formal processes. You shun organization. No.
Okay.
Organization. You say we can't operate within political parties if we're championing a revolution. What message are you sending out there? I was asking during the break, before we came on air, do you have roles of supporters, contact numbers, email addresses, WhatsApp groups, up to the grassroots level? And that will emerge as some...
May I ask you a question, Charles?
Sure.
You're a student of political history, or revolutionary history for that matter. Can you advise me on which particular country you know of that was liberated by a political party? I am one person who fought for the restoration of multi-party democracy in this country. But as we talk right now, and we have said it time and again, we just have these statutory, we just have these political parties in name. There is no functional multi-party democracy in this country.
Why?
By their nature, they are supposed to compete against one another. So you cannot have a situation where DP, FDC, UPC, JEMA, CP, they would compete against each other for power.
The political, parties as formal structures might be in some form of limbo. Admitted.
Yes.
But your revolution, you, Dr. Kiza Besigye, and the other people who agree with your line of thinking, have also kind of deflated over the last 4 months. And the question is it the return of Besigye tomorrow? What is it that can breathe new life into what you've been doing?
You see, I've told you and I've explained this. Dr. Besigye heads no political party. Actually, I don't know the position he holds in FDC. There is a president of FDC, just like we have presidents of different political parties. They have their own roles to play in their respective political parties, to build the party structures, to mobilize, to recruit membership, to do ABC, as their constitutions dictate. That is a given, and it's granted. Nobody is against that. But when it comes to fighting a quasi-military regime we are dealing with right now, political parties cannot do that.
What can?
What is your organization? Of
course, the different formations, and that's why in the early 70s, even actually I've mentioned those who fought apartheid, it wasn't NC per se. And even here, the Amini regime, in the 60s, in the 70s, we had political parties. UPC, DP, they were very strong political parties. But it took President Museveni and his colleagues, contemporaries at that time, to come up with a new formation in Tanzania, in Dar es Salaam when they were in exile, the Fronasa. Even when they went to the bush, President Museveni was a chairman of a political party, UPM, and his other colleagues, the Rugundas and others, were all in the UPM. But they left the political party and formed another formation called NRA, with its political wing NRM. And that's what supposedly liberated the country in 1986. All we are saying, we can have the political parties continue with their legitimate mandate within their respective constitutional documents. But alongside the party processes, we must have these forces, these formations.
And those forces have deflated over the last
They have
months.
not.
Yeah, they have.
Yes.
What is the evidence they exist, actually? People have been asking, without Besigye around, nothing seems to happen.
Because he's the head. He's the head of this cause. I've told you, he's the flag bearer.
But Charles is saying...
naturally,
Lord
people
Mayor,
and forces coalesce behind the particular leader.
Lord Mayor, Charles is saying that there is no evidence that there is any organization behind him. And that is perhaps the point that Napito is making, that he needs the symbolism of these rallies, because there is nothing organizationally to speak of. And even you, when you say, which I find a contradiction, because earlier you talked about being proud of the planning processes that you put in place in the authority.
That's a different matter.
Now you're saying that organizations are actually irrelevant when the cause is a meta cause.
No, you're mixing up two things. They are state institutions. Those ones you can't wish them away. Actually, one of the struggles we engaged in is to restore constitutional governance, to restore institutional governance.
How is your movement organized, and how do we know that it exists? Because institutions that you're referring to have got structure. They are staffed. They have got personnel. They have got plans.
Let me tell you, in the just concluded elections, we had three major political platforms. We had Defiance, we had Steady Progress, and we had Go Forward. These are not political parties.
Let us think about the party as an organization.
It's not a political party. It isn't.
Okay, let's dispense with the labels, okay? Let's dispense with the labels.
All you
let
have
us talk about the structure itself.
The Musevenists are the ones who pass off as members of NRM.
But they're organized under some kind of structures. They might be loose structures. In 2001, 2006, you had the emergence of things called Nyakundire, which were informal structures, but actually organized. You would know if you went to Mbarara, for example, Bushenyi, before it was split, Ntungamo, the forces that would be working, you know, the centers that hold that power together. If you came to even Reform Agenda in 2001, you would know, yes, it's not a formal political party, but it's a structure that you know these are the centers that hold together and create create the links. The question now is, we went through an election, we have important matters to deal with. You have elections coming up in 8 new municipalities. You just ended elections in the new districts.
New districts.
Yes, in the new districts. You have a constitutional review process possibly coming up. A constitutional review commission might be appointed, but significant changes in the constitution. You have the bills like the one of Kafero coming up in parliament, and you're asking yourself, in this revolutionary struggle, as you put it, where do you find centers that link things together to make sure that you know where you're going and you'll arrive there?
And just before the mayor answers that, also one has to question the logic and the timing of your pressure action. Look, before going into these elections, you guys were so categorical about how you respond to the outcome if it was not the way you expected. And you knew, actually, it would not be the way you expected because the election would be stolen. And you assured the country this time nobody would get away with it. And I think actually the country gave you a chance for a period. They thought that you might actually get back what you claimed was yours. But they waited, the court came in, they said officially it did not work out. And one may say the country needs to move, at least from a stage of pressure action, or this street activism and what have you, maybe to much more structured opposition.
Political process.
You see,
yeah, because somehow the country has to move on. Not everyone is actively engaged in the revolutionary activity the way you look at it. There are other people who think they may sympathize with you, but they also want to move on with other business.
This week, I happen to have participated in a function for the launch of a parliamentary forum on rule of law, constitutionalism, and good governance generally.
The one by hearing it.
It's not by hearing it. It's at a parliamentary level. Yes, it's the MPs who have launched it. And I reminded them that actually, if you looked at the provisions of Article 79, it's the mandate of the entire House to defend the Constitution. So probably this forum is a duplication of roles. But the fundamental question I posed, and this is what I want to ask you here, I think it was Dr. Olango, Professor Nyangoloka, presented a very wonderful paper. And I remember asking him, he is a good, you know him, he's one person who is well grounded in matters of law and the political history of this country. And I asked him, Professor, is it practically possible for us to cultivate a culture of constitutionalism and rule of law under a quasi-military regime? His answer, I may not go into it right now, but the same question I'm posing it to you right now. You are suggesting that we should have a robust organizational structure within the existing political parties. Is it feasible? Is it tenable under military regime?
No one is telling you that.
Is it tenable? We have made attempts at coming up with those structures you are talking about during the campaigns, or at least in our platform, the Defiance campaign. We had Power 10.
What happened to Power 10?
But this is what I'm telling you. This is what I'm telling you. This is what I'm telling you.
So you're a guerrilla
Those
movement.
formal structures you're talking about. Hey, you don't know what you're talking about.
Angel, I'll put this to you when we come back. The leader of the
They are
TDA,
dismantled.
the leader of the TDA, Mama Mbabazi, has completely gone underground. Well, he preferred to operate that way even before he declared he was going to run. Kizza Besigye has been out of the country. Yes, when he's in the country, you see some bit of activity. He might be coming back. And yes, for the government in power, not just for the NRM party. Even the NRM as a political party has kind of receded. But it's in power, so it has responsibility to be, it's comfortable running the government instead of organizing the political party. But the question is, the political parties have kind of disappeared. Individuals within the opposition and within the government have kind of also disappeared, and the country is asking, well, for governance it's okay. You need to be able to have the room to be able to do other things. What does this mean? And I forgot to announce to our viewers the passing on of Magistrate Richard Mafali,
Yeah, sure.
the one who was handling the private prosecution of Inspector General of Police Kale Kaihura, the guy who was
It's terrible.
yes, I think Lord Mayor was one of those people who were besieged at the court at Machinde when he was when the case
And when he
came
retreated
up,
to
when
the
he retreated
chambers.
to the chambers. He passed on suddenly this morning, and there is no information is still scanty at this stage, but we hope we'll be able to learn more about what exactly caused his quick
Permit
death.
me to pass
He's
on
only-
my condolences to the relatives, members of the family, and Ugandans at large.
Yes, at only
Because
51, he's still a
terrible.
very young man. Let's take a break, and when we come back, we'll be wrapping up this discussion. But we'll be asking the question, where are they? You're still watching The Fourth Estate. Welcome to this last segment of tonight's edition, and we're discussing trying to feel the political pulse. Will Dr. Besigye's return breathe some new life into political activism, especially on the opposition side? And Musa Lado, watching the show, says, Mangusha, you seem to have ganged against the Lord Mayor. He can't even have some water to sip. Lord Mayor, please.
Let me take a sip.
And this is...
Only true friends will tell you what's wrong.
Mugizi Justin of Makerere University, he says, thanks for the show, Charles. How has Dr. Besigye's return stopped parties from organizing? The Lord Mayor should remind you and the analysts of the overarching factors that curtail multi-party democracy. Angel, let me start with you. This also is, seems to be in support of the Lord Mayor. To say there are overarching issues that curtail the activities of political parties and formations like what the Lord Mayor is talking about. Does that really hold?
But okay, I hear you. I think in the case of the opposition, the way to answer that question is, okay, if it was a private sector problem, for instance, this last week, REM, that is the company that owned BlackBerry, went out of business. They got out of the business of making phones. They were once market leaders. The industry changed so much they didn't change with it, and then that's they died.
Facing
the way,
same fate
yeah,
of almost Nokia.
Yeah, the way it works actually in the real world is that if you do not innovate, you don't survive. And I think in the case of the opposition, it's the very lack of innovation that we are seeing. That is why, you know, there is no substantive evidence that he can provide to say that beyond the rallies, the sloganeering, and the symbolism, which may keep their supporters, of course with the help, the amplification of the media, alive to their existence. There is no program because there is no organization behind it. And that's how elections are also won and lost. Now, you can go further ahead. I mean, I'm like Elias here. I do question their mega themes here, now that independence is around the corner. So one can question, you know, whether democracy itself or elections or our narrative of development is enough for Uganda's long-term durable stability. These are matters for political organizations to deal with. But if what they are involved with, they don't have an infrastructure to see it through, of course they would be in the situation that we are seeing them now in, which is they're sailing without ballast. There doesn't seem to be any clear direction. Yes, there is no clear direction because there is no organization behind it. I think that's the evidence.
Kona, just before the little maker.
Yeah,
you have a country that will be 54 years old since gaining independence next Sunday. And the politics of the country is undefinable. You might, yes, President Museveni and his colleagues in the NRM might celebrate 31 years of holding power. But the only hold of power has been President Museveni, and there's no evidence that the NRM will be anything different from the other regimes that were held by one individual. If you go to the opposition of 2016 is the same as the opposition of 1970. And you're wondering whether this country knows exactly its
and Charles, I really want to take away the heat from the political groups, both NRM and the opposition, and turn it on the Ugandans as well. One of the sad bits about our politics is that it has been reduced to elections. Political participation is about elections. Most people are either cynical, apathetic, or fair weather supporters of political groups. After elections, everything really ceases, you know. There is no, at the grassroots level, people who are so active during elections, they do not maintain that drive amongst themselves. If they truly support a group, they don't have to go and demonstrate, but even just like maintaining, having, of course I know for the opposition it's always hard. If their supporters try to have some meeting, they may easily be mistaken and arrested. But even the NRM people don't have that continuous. So you find that it's obvious that there is no true commitment of the people to these processes of so-called modern democracy. It is only elections with the goodies that come with it that excite people. After the elections are over, everyone switches off. So politics or democracy is not being sustained, and maybe really proving that this brand of governance is not our thing. You know, we are still in our own way, believing in the chief. Once the president is elected, he's like a king. He's in his palace and he can do whatever he wishes. If he brings you some crumbs, well and good, but you are not part of that continuous process.
Would you respond to that? Is that a fair, Angelos and Honors, is that a fair assessment of the situation you find yourself in?
Well, to a certain extent, you could be correct. But we are doing our best to reawaken the masses. And that's one area where we have focused so much. And we made attempts at creating what you would call a critical mass, so that people appreciate that power belongs to them. These illusory provisions of the Constitution should not blindfold us and to imagine that, look here, we can organize at a party level and say, you see, under Article 1 of the Constitution, power belongs to the people. The Constitution guarantees the right for one to form political parties, to recruit members. If I may ask you, Angelo, would you advise me or any member of the political party to go on a drive now to sell party cards?
Absolutely.
Say, for example, I belong to DP, and I go out and recruit, because a party, what is the major reason why you form a political party is to compete for power?
Not necessarily.
Largely, it's to compete for power.
Largely, yes, I would agree with you.
Largely.
But the question is,
Actually,
but right now, let me tell you this. Even NRM is not competing for power. What we are having, it's a yes.
I want to disagree with you here. Can I say why? I want to disagree with you and Charles, because political organizations, the power is a product of their ideas. They have a worldview. around which they ask their members to come together. If, for example, you are a communist party... No.
That would be a social club.
Not necessarily.
A Rotary club of sorts.
Well, the Rotary club is better organized than most political organizations.
But it's not competing for power.
But what I'm saying is that power is a product. It's the necessary
and even
product.
Civil society organization, if they threaten dictators hold on to power, they will be disbanded.
Power cannot be an end by itself for political organizations. Political organizations exist because they have particular ideas of how the world should be run.
Can I make my point?
Sure.
But this is your problem,
Elias,
because if your political organization has got no real ideas, there is no amount of organization, that could lead you to power.
There should be ideological orientation. A party has to be based on a particular ideology, on a particular philosophy. It has to be there. But ultimately, you are aiming at grabbing, getting power. Let me not be derailed. What do you want to do with the power? Of course, that is the agenda of the party, and of course, the program and the platform.
In a moment, but let me just make my point to say why I think political parties should exist to compete and get power, not to just pass an ideology or to rally people for. You must have an end. And the end is to attain power.
Yeah, there will be a civic organization.
No, I mean, you can have there are so many other platforms through which you can sell your ideas. Not necessarily.
NGOs, civil society organizations.
My point is, I say Elias Lukwago, if you said Kizza Besigye is the leader of this revolution,
yes,
Elias Lukwago is a field commander. And you look around, Honor is the one who asked, it's one of his favorite things. Whether in the opposition or in the ruling party, how many people are burning the midnight oil, shifting pins on a map of Kampala and saying, this is our footprint here, this is what we need to be doing, this is what we need to be doing, and across the country. You don't see that evidence. If Besigye comes back tomorrow and you have supporters thronging Entebbe Road from Entebbe Airport up to Kampala, you have fans. You do not have supporters.
No.
How do you consolidate those? What have you been doing to try and consolidate those and give some life that continues on after the election, so that when you have another election, you're better prepared, you're better organized, and you know exactly what you're going for?
Because you don't have the idea.
This is what I've told you. No. You may think that actually we are very thin on the ground, because we're just mentioning 1-2 names, and so we are very thin on the ground. The structures in that context are there. But not they are there. Where? Certainly. Oh my God! If you are doubting those structures, you ask those who are in charge of security right now why they are banning our processions tomorrow. Why are they? If they are not so scared about the mobilization capacity, why are they banning it? Because I've just heard on the news by Tia, even on NTV this evening, NTV at 9, they were saying Kawesu was there. Saying that since you rescheduled the return of Dr. Besigye from Thursday to Monday, we are not allowing it now. You can imagine. He even quoted the Samuel law. I don't understand that he's going to invoke Section 8 of the Public Order Management Act. What does it say? You got to notice that the gentleman is coming back home on
and he will be received.
And he will be received. So what's wrong with that?
Because you guys need each other. He needs you for his budgets, and you need him so that it appears as if you're
Stop being cynical. Stop being cynical. You see, we need each other when they are arresting and persecuting us. Do you think we enjoy being incarcerated?
Let me pick some callers. Hello?
Do you think we enjoy it?
Hello?
Hello?
Yes, your name and where you're calling from, sir?
Bob from Kampala.
Yes, Bob. Go ahead with your question or comment.
My comment goes to the gentleman with glasses, Mr. I forget his name.
Izama?
Who says, Mr. Izama.
Yes.
Who says that political parties are supposed to compete and get power. Now, if under a competition there's a referee who declares a winner, do you think, honestly, Mr. Izama, that a referee formally dressed like you are will one day declare that political party X, apart from the yellow, has really won? You know?
Okay.
I don't think that's possible under the circumstances. And number two,
yes,
Charles, when you say that there should be strategists putting up pins on a map, saying we have a footprint there, a footprint there, do you think those strategists will survive a minute in the circumstances?
Okay.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Bob. We'll answer your question. We have another caller. Hello? Hello?
Hello.
Hello?
Meaning Hassan.
Good evening.
Meaning Hassan.
Yes, Hassan Kibirige? Go ahead.
Yes, please.
Yes, go ahead with your question or comment.
My comment is this.
We can hardly hear you, Hassan. Can we pick another call? I think we lost that one. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, sir.
Yes?
Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Kisoro.
Kisoro. Yes, your name, sir?
My name is Andrew Milton.
Yes, please.
Yeah. My name is Andrew Milton.
Yes, Andrew.
I wanted to inquire from the Lord Mayor. If you have visitors coming to your house and you choose to leave the sitting room as the head of the family, surely are you once being called the head of the family?
Okay.
There are people pouring in Kampala, and you choose to stay away as the Lord Mayor to celebrate with you the little achievements you may have had. Surely, by choice, if you choose to stay away, are you representing those many thousands that came to celebrate whatever success that has been in Kampala?
Okay.
And then if you say that, again, political parties now choose to exist, I tend to think that you became a Lord Mayor because you represent the DP party. You came on a DP party ticket.
Okay.
And then you talked about Dr. Besigye not belonging to any political party because he's not a DP, a president of FDC.
No, he's
but I thought he was the flag bearer of that party.
Okay, we'll answer those. I think we'll respond. Okay, let's pick the last caller. Hello?
Hello.
Yes, sir.
I'm in Kisoro.
You're in Kisoro. Your name, sir?
I'm called Joseph.
Joseph, okay, go ahead. Joseph, can you turn down the volume of your TV set?
What?
Can you turn down the volume on your TV set? We're getting an echo in the studio.
Yes.
Hi. Where you are, it's so noisy we can't hear you. Let's take another caller. Hello? Hello?
Hello?
Yes, please. Your name and where you're calling from?
I'm calling from Hoima.
Your name, sir?
I'm Wambali Geoffrey.
Geoffrey, yes.
Now, is anyone in the platform there convinced that President Museveni won the 18th election of Feb? And if yes...
We didn't get you well?
I'm asking...
Yes.
Amongst the people seated there, is there anyone who is really convinced that President Museveni won the election and that it was free and fair?
Okay.
Then if it was,
okay,
why did they deploy heavy police around the opposition leaders' offices and places? Yet, the election, they knew they had carried it well and it was fair.
Okay.
Yeah.
Thank you very much.
So,
I think we need to come back to the studio to wrap up this discussion. Angelo, I think Bob's question was to you.
He mistook me to having made an argument I did not make, I think. Yeah. But, well, what was his question again? I remember he misunderstood the...
No, the question was that if you hold a view that political parties are all out to compete for power, do you expect the chairman of the Electoral Commission to declare that Party X has defeated Party Y?
Yes, but you know, he's probably one of your supporters, and you guys are in a permanent state of explaining why the problem is impossible to solve. You see, you particularly, you've made a career of telling Ugandans, including your supporters, why you can't solve problems.
No.
Because the system is rigged against you, because of the 101 reasons.
That's not true. For heaven's sake, we launched defiance campaign. We participated in the elections. We won the elections. The election was stolen by Mr. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni.
Which is
That's
what the last
fact.
Which is
So-
the last caller.
So you see, the question, probably the challenge you would cast on us, you put on our side, is that once the election was stolen, what did you do?
No,
we opted not to go to court. We opted not to go to the bush. Yes.
You went into the election knowing or telling
That
your
it would be
supporters
rigged.
and the world and the country that the election will be rigged, that Museveni will still be in power. You did not provide solutions.
No.
we
Actually, they say
solutions, certainly.
the election will be rigged, but he would not get away with it.
You
That was
see,
the position,
you see
and
the
they will
point
get away
was,
with
the
it this
point
time.
was, and this is where you're missing it. The point was, yes, we alerted the nation that you are going into this process. We are being compelled by the constitution to participate in this process. And we don't want to shed blood. We don't want to go to the bush. Because we don't have any other option. But the duty is on you as citizens to defend your own vote. And that's where we made the difference. Because we do not want people to perceive it as if it is the obligation of Dr. Besigye and the rest to defend this election. We said, it is yours. And people took this message. They took, and the people responded positively. They fought resolutely. And that's why this time round, it had to be broad day robbery.
Lord Mayor,
Broad day robbery. That's
told,
what happened.
I told Dr. Kizza Besigye here, I believe that your supporters did not heed the call to fight because they did not share the same belief with you that
What do you mean?
that what they voted for is not what they got.
What do you mean? Even in Kampala here, people queued up as early as 6 or 5 a.m. And you know the time the materials were brought, what did you expect people to do?
But Lord Mayor,
I'm saying, are you suggesting that your supporters did, or what I'm telling you then, that if indeed the election was stolen, then it means your supporters did not share the same pain you felt because they refused to respond the way you had told them to respond?
Look here.
Yeah, I just don't need to understand that. Why didn't they respond the way you expected them to respond?
What you expected is an upsurge immediately, that the people would pour into the streets and take over government and do this and that.
I'm sure that's what you expected.
You see, there are things at times you people forget. You may assume that actually the populace is dormant. The population is dormant. You are mistaken. A revolution takes time. And there are dynamics that come into play and cause all that. So for you to assume that simply because on that day, when Badiru Chugun shamelessly said Mr. Yoweri Kaguta Museveni has won, and actually the figure he gave was constant, was not changing, that people gave up. And I've seen it in you. It's what you are suggesting, that actually it's a one-off, that even tomorrow when they pour in the streets, as they welcome Dr. Kizza Besigye, they will fizzle out, the support will fizzle out, and then it will be business as usual.
We can bet that. We can bet on that.
Let me tell you.
We can bet on that, and we'll come back into the studio, and I'll ask you the same question.
Let me tell you.
And you'll tell me.
This suppression,
just a moment.
This suppression going on.
This is a former member of parliament, and he belonged to the opposition when he was in parliament. I don't know if I should read his name or not. He says, the Lord Mayor should help us citizens to understand these political formations, e.g. Defiance, whose head is Dr. Besigye, as opposed to political parties, and yet, at the same time, when he's contesting for presidency, he runs back to FDC to get the flag. Why don't you run under Defiance if political parties are not useful?
I've not said the political parties are not useful.
Another viewer who says, ask the Lord Mayor what party he belongs to. Ask him what he has done at KCCA that sells him as a good leader.
Those are two questions.
Yes.
KCCA business and what makes
they're just responding to the contradictions you've offered. First, you say that organizations are important because you're doing reforms at KCCA. Then you say political parties,
institutions of state cannot be wished away.
And political
That's a statement I made.
And
even political institutions, in as far as building a democracy, they are vital, they are important. But as
But in a revolution,
when you are
they're
in
not
a
important?
situation when you are fighting a military regime, a quasi-military regime, and in our case, when it is even made worse, when Mr. Yoweri Museveni is entrenching a personal rule, where he's having his wife in the cabinet, he's having his brother Morris running the state, his brother Saleh, he's having his son heading the army, he's having his in-laws, the Rwabogo, as ideologues of the party, and the rest of the people are mere spectators and followers. You cannot talk of parties competing against each other. So you must have...
So what's
you
your
must
solution?
The
What's your solution?
Let me tell you, the solution you have is to galvanize all the forces of change. Because by their nature, parties are competitive. So you will be creating a very big problem. DP competing against FDC, competing against UPC, competing against CP. There you are dismembering the opposition per se. And that creates a problem. Instead of bringing those forces all together, the political parties have to coalesce together with these other formations and the civil society. They have to coalesce with the formations of activists, because in this situation we have now calls for political activism, the kind of dictatorship we are dealing with.
Is it time bound? Is this activism? Is it time bound? Do you have parameters? How do you measure your progress, stagnation, or regression?
You see, by its nature, activism is about creating a political mass. It's about mobilizing the population. So you can't have strict timelines.
So it's
At
not
what stage will you tell that now the population has been awakened, has been properly mobilized, now they are ready to take the mantle? At what stage will you make that
We're
assessment?
feeling the political pulse, and we're asking, how do you feel your own pulse? To say, we're being effective, we're not being very effective, we are progressing, or we are regressing.
Given what transpired in the just concluded general elections, I'm telling you, you have made a very big stride. Let me tell you, even the doubting Thomases this time around, all agreed across the board. Even if you ask those in NRM, the Musevenists I'm talking about, they all consider the man stole elections.
Our time is out. We need to get out of here. Thank you very much.
So certainly, there we have made a headway.
Lord Mayor's final argument is that it's not actually a revolution, it's evolution.
No, it's a revolution.
It takes time.
It's a revolution. It's a revolution. Of course, even President Museveni did not know that it would take 5 years.
Yeah. It's an evolution.
No, actually, he took a total of about 15.
If you count
the 1970s,
the Fronasa days,
yes, the Fronasa days, 15 years.
It took for about 15 years.
But he knew he had some timelines within which he was working.
And if our brothers in Zimbabwe, how long is it taking them?
You know, that's not providing a solution, like Angela said.
And Mandela, how long did it take you?
You're not still providing a solution.
You see, the solution we are providing, for us, we are still mobilizing the critical mass. We are mobilizing the population. We are rallying them to appreciate that the power belongs to them, and they should take charge of they should take charge of the destiny of this country. And it's their struggle. It's not our struggle. It's not a Besigye or Kwago, Mugisha Muntu, or any other person's struggle. It's a people's struggle.
Our time is out. We need to get out of here. Thank you very much, Lord Mayor Arias Lukwago. Thank you very much, Angelo Izam, and thank you very much,
But first, before we log off, we must give the Lord Mayor credit for his resilience. You must definitely. He might be headed for Nagalama tomorrow, but the man will still come out and.
I'm humbled, I'm flattered, and we are holding parallel processes during the independence period. We are going to have a series of rallies. Some are going to be in Kampala. On the 8th, we shall be in Kawempe here, growers. On the 9th, we are going to be in Ikatwe. 7th, we are going to be in Chireka. And many other activities are ongoing. Okay. So we are not sitting.
We'll be watching to see what happens, and of course,
kindly be there in
bringing it to assessment, critical assessment on the Fourth Estate and other programming on NTV and elsewhere. Thank you very much to you all our viewers for joining us tonight, and always we'll be watching tomorrow, and we'll bring to you the action as it happens, as Dr. Kizza Besigye makes his way back to Kampala after slightly more than a month away. He addressed rallies in gatherings in London, in the United States, and held other meetings. We'll see what happens. And of course, condolences to the family of Richard Mafabi, who passed on, and of course, condolences also to the family of the late Nsubuga Nsambu. Yeah, sure. Yes, the former MP for Machindye West Division, who passed on earlier in the week. Good night.